morning, everyone. I mean, I'd really heard this two gentlemen who came from ISC, all the way towards Makeley Circle. Guess what? They covered it in 40 minutes or 45 minutes. It's news, isn't it? So great. Thank you so much for all of your presence here. And I'm sure this particular technical seminar is going to give all the benefits. And please do connect with each other, both online and offline. We have mobile apps, we have websites, we have lots of other platforms that we use to ensure that all of you are connected. With this, I would like to request Venki, Vice President of IESA, to take over. Come on, Venki.
So thanks, Surya. Thanks for the introduction. So good morning, everybody. Morning, fantastic. So it's great to see all of you. I mean, a lot of them are pretty well known to me. So thank you very much for being here and willing to listen to maybe some of the content that we have, maybe repetition. So please bear with us, okay? So people who know us pretty well. So nice to see JK here. Good. Hey, JK. Good. So I've kind of put a small presentation together to kind of give you a glimpse of what exactly is happening with the ESDM industry in India, and how does the future look, right? I want to talk about a little bit of the market. I have friends of mine from the analysts are here. They'll kind of give a better story maybe, and we're taking a lot of inputs from them as well. Talk to you about what's going on in the IoT industry, which is kind of really doing pretty well, innovative startups and stuff like that. So let me kind of begin. So who are we, right? I think most of you are aware. I mean, we are the industry body for electronic system design manufacturing in the country, and we have more than 260 plus members. I mean, most of them are. For people who are not members of IESA, this is a request for all of you to come be part of our story, be part of the entire, exciting journey on ESDM, right? So we have a plethora of fraternity with us, starting from Silicon Design Homes, that's the genesis of IESA, to fabulous companies, manufacturers, suppliers, EDA companies, tool guys, and now we have more than about 100 startups with IESA at this moment, right? So, so last year for the semicon industry, it's been a year of consolidation, right? This is no news for all of us, but I just want to kind of reiterate for people who are not from the semicon industry and the users. We had 7 major acquisitions, right? And the largest being the one by Qualcomm. Qualcomm acquired NXP. NXP earlier had acquired Freescale the previous year, so Freescale, NXP, and all these guys have gotten as part of Qualcomm today, right? So, and that was the largest acquisition last year, $39 billion, right? With a nice little premium, right? And of course, the year before last, we had a major acquisition by Avago, right? They acquired Broadcom. The big one of last year was actually the acquisition of ARM by SoftBank, and this is something that we are very, very, what you should say, we're kind of reading it very, very seriously, because they acquired ARM. ARM was like, a couple of $1 billion, right? They acquired ARM for like $33 billion. So Masayoshi Son from SoftBank he believes in acquisitions of various companies, but I think the largest investment by Masayoshi has been ARM. So I was talking to some senior folks at ARM and said, hey, what's the story? I mean, why is he kind of investing so much money, right? So one of the things that they said, hey, you know what now, Masayoshi believes that linearity is going to happen, right? He believes that at some given point in time, the human intelligence will be overtaken by computer intelligence, right? So he believes that IoT, AI, robotics, and all that good stuff, at the core of all this will happen to be an ARM silicon. And that's where he's going to make his moolah. So he believes that in the next 30, 40 years, this linearity is going to happen. So he's a person who believes in long-term vision, right? I mean, it's tough. I can't even predict the next quarter, but he kind of predicts 30, 40 years. So it's great. Okay, so so what are we doing about it, right? What is IESA doing about it? So what are we, so one of the things that we kind of forecasted the crystal ball many years ago is we said that that the ESDM industry is going to be a $400 billion industry in the next decade, right? We kind of we did forecast that with a lot of assumptions, right? But things have, the government policies and stuff like that have not actually gone the way we expect it to be, right? So obviously you see a slowdown in the growth of the ESDM industry. But having said that, I will show you some slides on what the growth rates are in the last 24 months, right? So the other good part with the new dispensation 3 years ago, right? A lot of good things happening with Startup India. We have Digital India, Make in India, and stuff like that. Great policies coming out by DIPP and MITI and so on and so forth. Where I'll kind of cover this a little bit in the later slides, right? So what's the growth like, right? So we are very proud today to say that we have crossed the $100 billion mark, right? As an ESDM industry, okay? And with the entire IT services pitch coming down, we're going to supersede them in the next 2 to 3 years' time, right? So ESDM hardware product story is going to get very strong in the next 2 to 3 years' time. I'll tell you why. I have a lot of success stories which will corroborate why I'm making this statement. Okay, so if you actually look at the breakups, right, we kind of break it up with, into products, right, which is the bulk of the whole $100 billion industry. Components is still pretty low, and this is where we are kind of seeking anchors to come from, you know, elsewhere to kind of grow this particular sector, right? The design services market growing pretty well, right? A lot of startups, a lot of big companies doing pretty well in the design services. Again, this is semicon, full system design, and stuff like that. And EMS, right? If you look at the growth rate there, the highest, right? Almost 50% in contract manufacturing. And this is fueled by two things. One is the defense market, and the other is the startup market beginning to kind of, you know, get products done out of India, okay? So just a view on what are the markets, the top 3 markets. Of course, no guesses here. Number 1 is definitely smartphones. Number 2 is industrial electronics, and number 3 is consumer electronics. So that will continue to stay, you know, for the next 4 to 5 years, right? So I just want to go drill down a little bit for people in the, I mean, I see a lot of marketing people here. For them, the highest growth, if you look at it, is definitely, if you take the top 3 markets, right? We're talking about, I'm sorry, kind of smudged here, talking about a 17-22% in in industrial electronics. Mobiles growing again about 25%, which is a good story for all of us, right? So one of the articles that I just read is we did, I mean, from a Make in India perspective, we're talking about 90,000 crores of mobile manufacturing happening in India, which is great, right? I mean, you may argue that, you know, it is not a full-fledged manufacturing assembly, but then we have to make a start, right? Okay, so look at the other ones, right? Medical also is growing by a cool double-digit. Automotive, of course, is in a high 25-30%. Right? The telecom market, of course, is not something that we can rave about, but that also is growing by 10%. And strategic electronics, this is where I think the bulk of the ESDM story is going to happen, right? With the new policy that you have seen from defense, where we have also been involved along with NASSCOM, we're trying to see how private sector participation can happen in Indian defense. And I think there's a full thumbs up on that particular story. Okay, so this could be a repetition for a lot of people, a lot of our fraternity, but for those who don't know us pretty well, that there are 4 components to the national policy of electronics. The first being establishment and growth of the manufacturing clusters. The second being the EDF, the Electronic Development Fund, that got kicked off last year by the IT minister, right? The third is MSIPs, basically, incentives for people already in manufacturing. 25% has already come. I think some of our friends here are already availed of it. 25% of funding given by the government as a grant. I mean, that's the key. It's a grant. Now, the big one is PMA. And we're very, very happy about PMA today because for the first time, I think the policy is in favor of people, companies, startups, entrepreneurs who make products in India will get a preference in government procurement. Right? And this is real. It did a U-turn 7 years ago, but I think it's real this time. Okay? All right, so the point that I wanted to make here, if you look at the Department of Space, and since we're talking about the technical framework, one of the key initiatives that IESA took is to kind of open up the existing fab in semiconductor complex in Chandigarh. So the 180 nanometer fab is open for all of you, right? So you can actually go to them, get your silicon taped out. Okay, so that's been that we have signed an MOU. They've already kind of given a set of libraries to universities already, and people have started to use it, right? So we want startups, we want people like you to leverage the capacity utilization because it's still pretty low on this fab. Okay, right. So just wanting to give you a snapshot. We're working very closely with Ministry of Defense to come out with the national policy for defense electronics, right? This is definitely along with NASCOM, right? You'll see a lot of things of that kind. The second thing is on IoT. I think there are talks with the government to kind of open up a couple of more IoT COEs, and I think IESA taking a lead there, right? And of course, there are industry reports that we have come out during a Vision Summit. So people who have not bought your ESDM reports, please go ahead, all right? You got a good price on that today. Okay, so this is something that I want to talk about because this is closer to home, right here in Karnataka, right? Where the Karnataka government is sanctioned about 8 crores, right? There are 2 projects here. One is to set up the first VLSI incubation center for 4 crores in Hubli, right? Vivek Pawar, who's the chairman of Sankalp, is leading that play for us. The second is to set up a test facility again in Hubli with the Deshpande Foundation, right? So these are 2 approvals that we have got, and you will see execution in play in the next 1 year. This is something for people who don't know us. I mean, Electropreneur Park was something that we coined about 4 years ago. It's in existence here. The objective of Electropreneur Park is primarily to see how we can support ESDM startups, right? We already have a dozen out there doing products, ESDM products in Delhi, right? And this is definitely this is something that we took the initiative along with MIT and STPI and Delhi University, right? Okay, the other contribution from IESA has been, talking about the semiconductor industry. One of the problems that we see today, and you agree with me, is that the lack of skills, semicon skills, right, in the market, right? I'm talking more from a university perspective, okay? So Vivek again has been driving this over the last couple of years. We've got a lot of support from people like you, and we decided to spawn off this as a company. It's a Section 8 company, what we call Netra Accelerator Foundation. We just got the ROC done yesterday, okay? So it's called National ESDM Technology Research Academy, okay? And at the core, if you look at it, right, at the core is we would go on campus, right? And again, the first campus that we choose is Scaly Technology in Hubli, right? And we will make sure that faculty, engineers, we will help them tape out the silicon on campus, right? Thereby, they get real knowledge rather than the theoretical one, right? So that is the core. At the core is helping them become better semicon professionals. And the second pillar, if you look at it, is capacity building, right? We will come out with a lot of programs. verification programs, design programs, and a lot of DFT and all those good things, right? So that people get to know what actually is happening on the field, and they're well prepared when they get into the industry. Okay. The third vector here is productization. We will look at some kind of an IoT kind of a, we want to call it a smart campus, right? So we will take the help of students to set up an IoT kind of a lab, a living lab out there, so they can use that lab to come out with IoT products, right? And the fourth, which is a tall order at this time, right, is research. We'd like to get world-class researchers into Netra, so that they could kind of give us that vision of what we need to do as an industry body and what we need to do as Netra. Okay, so this is very exciting, very exciting. All right, so a little bit on what we want to do and how IoT is going to shape the industry, and what is it IESA is doing on that, and how will you look at test, because we're talking about, today's theme is all about test, right? How are you going to look at testing IoT products, with the kind of products that we see in the market today, IoT products that we see in the market. So this is just a number. We want to take, 15% of that IoT as India, right? We want to take a 15 billion. We believe that it will be 15 billion by 2020, right? Worldwide, of course, one of the things that I always keep talking about is worldwide, we're talking about a $400+ billion of IoT, whether you look at it from McKinsey or whether you look at it from any of the big five, right? But one of those startling points that all of you need to know is that more than 60 to 70% of that $400+ billion is going to be hardware. So that, so one of the things that we believe is hardware, the new software. Right, so it's good for all of us because the testing industry is going to grow, right? Okay, so what are we doing about this, right? So we, along with Ty, we kind of did some cool stuff. We kind of curated 16 IoT companies, and out of that we had 3 successes. One is already on to Series A on the medical technology. I'll talk about successes a little later. But before that, before we get into the depth of this, have we crossed the hype? Very clearly the answer is yes, we have crossed the hype. Right? This is last year's hype curve by Gartner. So I think we believe that we are in prime time. But you will see that, there'll be a section of quarters who will say that, it's not taking off. There'll be a section of quarters who will say it's taking off, because it will need to go through this curve. It will need to go through this curve of disillusionment before you actually see stabilization happen. So don't get alarmed, is the message, right? So IESA and TIE were the first to come out with India's first IoT startup directory. We kind of sampled more than 500 IoT startups, and people who are startups and not in this directory, please send us a note, we'll include them in. We believe it's in the region of about 850, 900. So by this year's IoT Next, in November, we will kind of release one more edition, right? And these are the findings, right? The findings is that more than 50%, right? And there's no brainer again. More than 50% of these startups are in Bangalore, right? But what is important here to note is that IoT is not a play of the elite. IoT is not a play of the urbanite. You can be in a remote place and do an IoT startup. Today our number one poster boy for wearables is in Belgaum, right? Sense Gigs. He's giving a fight for Fitbit, Xiaomi, and all that. So the message to startups here is we're saying, build your product wherever you are. You don't need to come to Bangalore. You don't need to get to Delhi or Bombay or whatever. We will come to where you are, right? As long as you have a great story, right? So, you can see the verticals there. I think, we believe it's going to be industrial IoT, which will lead the way. Right? I was at Global Summit in December, where we had this head of SoftBank Ventures, Deep Nisar, say that in the next 10 years, he's predicting $100 trillion of industrial production. So you know where to focus your particular energies as a startup, right? So this market here, I'll skip this because I think it's large enough. But I definitely want to touch upon the the IoT successes in India. Okay, so we've been tracking this for the last several years, and we believe these are the top-notch startups in India, very innovative, right? Some of them need not be pure IoT, but they do very path-breaking products, right? Kodak Design Labs, I think most of you are aware. I mean, this was our poster boy. He's doing pretty well onto Series A, moving on with his ECG medical device, right? The second, I think, gesture control, Intugiant is doing pretty well too with his gesture control. He's kind of pivoting, but I think the IIT kids who dropped out, I think, is worth their time, right? They're doing pretty well. The other one that we're betting on space tech is Astrom and Dhruva Aerospace. Dhruva, I think most of you know, built one of the earliest microsatellites in India. But Astrom is kind of looking at how they could build a product where they could give you like, very high streaming video in the remotest part of Asia, right? They're all incubated at IESA, right? Very bright kids. Straight bat, I mean, this is something that we believe that will take off in India and wherever where cricket is in vogue. So senior people from the industry came out and kind of, they did a flexible little piece on a cricket bat, which will actually give you the entire, view about how you're practicing, right? And we were told that there's nobody today in India which can give you the kind of stuff that you've done, right? So we believe that this will be a good one because at the heart of this is a flexible electronics core sitting on the bat. Okay, so this is a good one, we believe, right? Okay, so Altigreen, hybrid guys right here in Bangalore, right? Altigreen doing exceedingly well, right? They're converting all the diesel, petrol vehicles into hybrid, right? Very well. I mean, we gave them the award last year at IoT Next, right? Very good company. The other one, most of you are aware. I mean, Hero Electronics invested the first Series A of $30 million with Ather Energy, the first two-wheeler electric scooter. Okay, so we believe that this is the Tesla for India for two-wheelers, right? So I can go on and on, but let me kind of pick that up. Scaling at the last, right? So this gentleman is an ex-DRDO scientist. And 8 years ago, he comes out with an MRA-like product, right? Which he doesn't claim, but he's proved in the last several years, 5 to 7 years, that he cures cancer tumors in less than 45 days. And at the heart of this is electronics. And we give them an award as well. Okay, it's called a cytotron. Right. So the point I'm trying to make, India is at the cusp of building products, just not for India, but for the world. It's on the cusp. I mean, there are few companies, like SenseGigs is already outside of India, doing a couple of $1 million, which is great. But we want a lot of these startups to go beyond India as well, right? So the message that I'm giving you is that how are you going to test these little fellows, the little IoT products? Will that change? So let's hear from the panelists in the next session. So just wanting to give you a snapshot. I mean, there's a play for everybody in IoT, hardware vendors, network operators, system integrators, and application vendors. There's a play for everybody, right? And for the next few minutes, I just want to talk to you about, what's the future for the product industry in India, right? No rocket science again. I think you heard this from a lot of people. IoT is not going to be just IoT. It's going to be AI. Every IoT device that you will see in the next 12 to 24 months will have some kind of a deep learning algorithm inside, right? No brainer, right? But what is more interesting is data is the new oil, right? So IoT companies who spend a lot of time in understanding field results and then pivoting or coming out with empirical data and who can kind of portray that to customers are the ones who are going to win, right? And AI is going to help that piece, okay? So I think with this, I kind of want to show two videos on how is AI kind of shaping the future. One is industrial IoT example, and the other is a consumer product. This is not from India, but I just want you to take a look at it. Can we have the video on the Bosch video? Take a look at this. This is actually an implementation in Bosch, Germany, right? And take a look of how AI is actually enabling or getting itself integrated, right, in the shop floor, right? What we used to call cyber-physical systems, the integration of the human-machine interface, right, is reality. Right? The machine is able to sense the human and it's able to interact with the human. So, yeah, go ahead.
Ich bin jetzt direkt in der Produktion hier in Feuerbach und ich glaube, da hinten, das ist der neue Kollege. Gehen wir doch mal hin. Können Sie mir weiterhelfen? Was ist denn das Besondere am Apas?
Wie Sie schon sagen, er hat viele besondere Eigenschaften. Er kann alle möglichen Teile greifen. Er erkennt die Teile, er sieht die Teile, die er greifen will. Man kann ihm sehr leicht beibringen, welche Teile, wie er sie greifen soll. Und vor allem, er ist für den kollaborierenden Betrieb, also für die Zusammenarbeit mit dem Mitarbeiter zugelassen. Vor allem macht das diese Sensorhaut möglich, die den Mitarbeiter schon erkennt, bevor er ihn berührt.
Okay, das heißt, wenn ich ihm zu nahe komme, stoppt er automatisch. Ich probiere es mal aus. Ah, funktioniert wunderbar. Also er hat mich gar nicht berührt, sofort erkannt, dass ich da bin.
Okay, great. So you want to show the other one? You know, so this is industrial IoT use case. The other one is let me not steal the thunder. Let me see if we can pull that out. Take a look at this.
Like John Turode and Greg Wallace at the end of an invention test, Moby Robotics wants you to stop cooking. The UK company has unveiled what it claims is the world's first robot chef at the Hanover Messe Robotics Fair in Germany. The chef, more of an automated kitchen side, really, comprises 2 robotic arms above a large cooking surface, including hobs, a sink, and an oven hidden behind a glass safety screen. Rather than cooking from a recipe, the system relies on capturing the movement of a human chef with a 3D camera, then recreating their every stir. The robot turns on the hob with a deft finger before picking up some butter taken from a group of pre-assembled ingredients. It melts the butter, adds shallots and seasoning, and over the next 20 minutes or so produces an impressive bisque. The bisque is delicious, deep and warming with a strong hit of crab, although a food critic might note that that's less down to the robot itself than Anderson's instructions. The company claims the product will be on the market for 2017 and estimates it will cost around £10,000 for consumers to have a kitchen installed in their home. That's assuming fairly high demand. It's unclear how many consumers would want a pair of robot arms making their dinner each night, given that the machine is no faster than an ordinary person. This, Olenek says, is down to feedback that it would scare people to see a robot chopping onions at inhuman.
Right? So let me give the India piece now, okay? That's £10,000. There's no way we are going to invest in this stuff, right? Right? But there are IoT startups who's come out with a coffee maker kind of a product, which can do, at a press of a button, can do sambar. At a press of a button, can give you your, pongal, khichdi. This is real. We have seen this. We've seen the prototype happening, right? Like a coffee maker. So at the core of it, it's an AI-enabled product inside. So the point I'm trying to make is that with the advent of AI-enabled products, what will be the role of a human species is for all of us to think about. With that, thank you so much.